everyone. Welcome to today's Pet Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Roberta Westbrook. Thank you for sticking with us through some technical difficulties. I'm your host, along with my co-host, Polar. I'm going to tell you about Polar and his litter mates in just a minute. But right now, I just want to encourage you to come on down to our adoption center here at the Houston SPCA campus for all animals and take a look at our dogs, cats, puppies, kittens, rabbits, and all the animals that we have available for adoption. It's the holiday season. This is a time where people are always looking to bring a new pet into the home, and most often, puppies and kittens. So we're going to talk all about puppies and kittens, how to puppy-proof your home, how to introduce your puppies and kittens to your new resident pets, and how to just make their integration into your family smooth and easy. So if you have questions, please put them in the chat, and hopefully I can help you today. And so this is Polar. Polar and 4 of his litter mates, including Flurry, who you see playing in our playpen today, they came to us through our ambulance and cruelty service. So unfortunately, their mother was not very well taken care of. She's in very poor condition, emaciated, and these guys need a foster home. They need a home to take care of them, give them proper nutrition and socialization for about 3 to 4 more weeks. They're only about 5 weeks old, so they're not quite ready for adoption. They just need a little TLC until they become old enough to go up for permanent adoption. So please consider being a foster parent for the Houston SPCA. You can help us continue to save lives. So yes, if you can't make it to our adoption center, please visit us at Neiman Marcus all this week and consider looking at the puppies and kittens available for adoption there. Okay, well, let's get started. Again, we're talking about bringing puppies and kittens into your home, and it's always fun to consider bringing a puppy and kitten in as your new pet. You know, there's a lot of excitement surrounding that, particularly if you have kids. They're so adorable. They're so active. And the benefit of bringing a puppy or kitten into your home is because you get to raise them. You get to integrate them right from the beginning. You can train them. You can, know their personality. And so there really are some benefits to having a puppy or kitten come into your home. So what questions can I help you with regarding that?
So the first question we have is, what should we consider when adopting a puppy or a kitten?
Yes, the first thing you should consider is time. Puppies and kittens take time because you want to make sure that during this young stage, usually between about 6 weeks and 12 weeks old, we really want to make sure that they get proper attention and socialization. And you can even start training them this soon because we want them to be good citizens and good family members, and that means having good manners. So I want you to consider your time. Make sure that you have adequate time to spend with your puppy and kitten so that you can make sure that you're integrating them into the home appropriately. You also are going to want to consider your lifestyle, what type of puppy that you may want to get in terms of the breed. So, when this puppy grows up, you want to know what kind of characteristics or personality he or she might have. So researching breeds might be an important thing. Researching size. What kind of size are you looking for your puppy or kitten? Kittens are going to be about 10 pounds, but puppies can vary. They can grow up to be 10 pounds or they can grow up to be 70 or 80 pounds. So it's important that you know what you can accommodate in your home, what kind of dog you're looking for as an adult, because they're all cute when they're 5 weeks old. But as they grow and they become bigger and their needs change, we want to make sure that they stay a part of your life for their lifetime.
If it's a rescue pet or we don't know 100% what their parents are, how do we know how big they're going to get? Is there, a magic trick?
Yeah, a lot of times we're guessing. So we will look at the puppies and we'll sort of guess based on their look, based on if we know what their parents are, how big they will get. These guys are husky mixes. That we know that because we know their mom, but we don't know the dad, and so we don't know what they might be mixed with. They could be as big as an average husky, so they could be 50 or 60 pounds, but they could also be smaller. So oftentimes we are taking a little bit of a guess, but we can take a look at their size, what the breed we think they are, and make a pretty good estimate about the size that they're going to be when they're an adult.
All right, when we bring them home, what are the main supplies that we need?
Okay, when you are puppy proofing your home or kitten proofing your home, you definitely need the basics. So a crate. because you want to make sure that your puppy or kitten, well, particularly for puppies, you want to make sure that they have a nice, comfortable crate to rest in, particularly at nighttime or when you're away from home. So getting a proper size crate, which means making sure the crate has enough space for a food and a water bowl and adequate space for your puppy to stand up, lie down, completely stretched out, and turn around. So get a crate. Get a food bowl, get a water bowl, get a collar. You want to make sure that your puppy has a collar, and you're going to need a leash. And those are the basics there. I recommend always getting a crate and starting to crate train your puppy right from the beginning because it's very beneficial, even as your puppy grows and gets older. Having them be able to rest comfortably in a crate can come in handy lots of times for car rides, for vacations, for traveling. And so that's a key part in bringing a new puppy into your home.
And you mentioned, it's crate training at nighttime, but they're so cute and small. Like, why can't we just like sleep with them at night, at least for the first few days?
Yeah, so we would love to cuddle with this puppy all night, wouldn't we? And I'm sure he would like that. So the dangers with doing that is that you could introduce bad habits to your puppy early on. So again, it's sort of knowing your lifestyle and whether you're okay with that for the entirety of his or her life. But having them be able to rest comfortably in a crate, again, is going to come in handy because they may not be with you every single night for the rest of their life. And they need to be able to be comfortable by themselves. So if you start sleeping with your puppy early on, he or she may be used to that and it may become a habit. And then the first time that your puppy is alone, he or she could have somewhat of an anxiety attack because they're not used to that. And they're looking for comfort. They don't want to be lonely. They're looking for their mama or daddy. And so it's a really good thing if you train them to be in a crate by themselves, comfortable by themselves, instead of sleeping with you every night.
All right. So next thing, how do we stop them from crying then over the night until they get used to it?
That's always hard. If you're having your puppy in a crate and they're crying, the first thing you're going to want to do is go rescue them, right? You're going to want to go hug them, cuddle them, and get them out of that crate. Please don't do that. I advise not to do that because what you'll do is you'll reinforce the crying. So when you do that, you reinforce the crying. The puppy will believe that, okay, if I cry and make a lot of noise, I will get a treat, I'll get cuddling, I'll get more love, and it will reinforce that. What you want to do is make sure that you ignore it. And you can do some things before you put your puppy in a crate at night to help prevent the crying. So one, make sure, do you want to go play? We'll let Polar go play. So one thing that you can do is make sure your puppy is tired. Play with your puppy a lot right before bedtime, tire him, her out, and make sure they're tired. That way, when they get in the crate, they're more likely to rest comfortably. Make sure that they have had a potty break. Make sure you've taken them either outside or let them express themselves on maybe a puppy pad in the home. Make sure that they don't need to go potty overnight. You can also put a comfort toy in the crate. Something that can help your puppy feel comfortable. If they're used to being with you, you can take a t-shirt or a blanket, something that has your scent on it, and you can put it in the crate with your puppy. That way they feel like they're snuggling with you. They get your scent on them. So the idea is to make the crate very comfortable for them. Never use it as a punishment. Never put them in there as a punishment. Only use it for positive interactions. And over time, it's going to take time, so please be patient. Over time, they will begin to go into the crate on their own. They'll walk right in. They'll feel like this is my comfort space, and you shouldn't have a problem after that.
All right. So now Polar and Fluffy look so cute together. Should we adopt multiple puppies at once? Or what are the pros and cons?
Yeah, so these puppies are cute together, and you love to see them cuddling together and playing together, and it's really cute. There is something that we call littermate syndrome that you should be aware of if you are considering adopting two puppies of the exact same age or littermates. And littermate syndrome is where two puppies are raised together, most often littermates, and they tend to bond with each other. And that sounds good, but oftentimes they bond with each other more than they bond to the people in their lives. And so what it does is it creates a relationship where they protect each other, they only want to be around each other, and they tend to be somewhat, it can be aggression to other people and other dogs that try to infiltrate that relationship. And so it could create behavioral problems as they grow and they become adults. However, if you already have litter mates or you really, really still want to adopt litter mates, you're going to need to make sure that you create time apart from each other. You want to make sure that they have time apart. You want to make sure that you do exercising and training apart. You want to make sure that you develop their minds individually so that they don't become dependent on each other. You want them to exist happily on their own and not feel like they have to be with their litter mate, because it's going to be healthier for them all the way around. So something to consider. Just be aware that you could be, involved with litter mate syndrome. It could create some behavior problems, and we want to prevent that as much as possible.
And does the same thing happen with kittens, or kittens are a little bit different and they could get adopted together?
Kittens can get adopted together, and it's, cats tend to be somewhat independent anyway. And so they don't tend to have the same type of litter mate syndrome that dogs do. So certainly you can consider getting two kittens together. But again, it's still something to consider. You want them to be able to have fun together, but give them private space as well. Cats want to have their own space. They need their own food and water bowls, their own litter box. So you just still want to make sure that they have adequate time to be apart from each other if they need that and want that.
And then what are the main difference between like the younger ones and the older ones is potty training. So any tips on how to potty train or when we should start that?
Yeah, it takes some time, but potty training can be frustrating at the beginning, but over time it's going to happen. So just, you got to be patient and stick with it. So when you're starting potty training, again, the crate helps. Making sure that your pet has a routine is key. So knowing every day, when is going potty time, when is feeding time, when is nighttime, your puppy's body will get on a routine. So be very, very consistent. And then the crate is important because your puppy is less likely to have accidents in his or her own space. So you want the crate to be big enough for all those things that I mentioned earlier, but maybe small enough so that they think twice before having an accident. But having that routine, taking them outside frequently, as long as your veterinarian says that your puppy's okay to go outside, and taking them outside frequently, giving them access to potty pads frequently, rewarding them when they do go potty in the right place. All of those things will help you. There's lots of resources online, and you can talk to your veterinarian about proper potty training. That's a whole other show that maybe we can start you with. But consistency is key. Crate training is key, and you can start with those things.
And then going on with training, what are the main tricks that we can start teaching puppies, or when are they old enough to kind of understand what a trick is?
Yes, I would say start right away. Their minds are always learning and they're always fresh. So you can start with the basics in terms of tricks, and the tricks that we like to start with that are really life-saving tricks. And those things are how to sit, how to stay, how to come when called, and how to walk properly on a leash. Those are the basics that we want every canine to learn how to do. Those are important, and they will save their life. If they're outside, for example, and they get loose from you, it's important that they know and are able to come back to you when called, that they have learned that, and they know that it's better that they come back to you than to continue doing whatever they wanted to do in the first place. You want them to be able to sit and stay, because you never know when there may be distractions in your environment. And in order to protect your pet's safety, you're going to need him or her to be able to sit and stay right next to you. You also want them to be able to walk on a leash, because we want them to have exercise. We want you to have exercise with them, and proper leash manners are key. We don't want them to be pulling you around the neighborhood. We want those walks to be pleasant and get good exercise. So those are the basics, and you can start early.
And if we have already a resident pet at home, what's a proper way to introduce them?
Yeah, so introducing your resident pet or your new puppy to your resident pet, it's important to do it slowly, and it's important that you make it a very positive experience. It's also really important if you know how your resident pet will respond already to other animals. So if you know that your resident pet has not typically liked other dogs or cats or puppies or kittens in the past, it's going to take a little bit more time for them to get used to that. But if you have, the age is important, because sometimes puppies are very active and they're going to want to jump and play and jump on their older brother or sister. And sometimes if you have an older animal, maybe a geriatric pet that's 9, 10, 11 years old, they're not going to want to put up with that puppy chewing on their ear or their tail or jumping on them. So it's really important that you keep those interactions positive. At any time your resident pet and your puppy are behaving, reward them, give them treats, pet them, make the interactions very positive. But again, you want to do it slowly. You want to do it under supervision, and you want to make sure that both pets are enjoying those interactions.
And you mentioned earlier socializing our puppies. Should we just throw them in a dog park and that's enough? Or what are some tips on socializing them?
Yeah, so socializing is really just letting them experience a variety of circumstances, because the more well-rounded your puppy is, the better they're going to integrate into society, and they're going to have less fear overall. So that means exposing them to noise, having the TV on, the vacuum on, washing dishes, petting them, all the things that are going to happen in their lives on a daily basis. You want to expose them to early on so they don't become scared by them, and it doesn't become a big deal as they get older. When your puppy is healthy enough and is properly vaccinated, you can start taking your puppy out on walks. On the walk, they're going to be exposed to sights and sounds that maybe they haven't before. But again, doing this early on can help them so that when they're adults, these things don't become scary to them. And so having a routine training plan, exposing them to other people, having those interactions be very positive, all of that is going to help your puppy be properly socialized and well-rounded so they develop less fear as they become adults.
And you mentioned vaccinations, before we start walking them out. What are those vaccinations that puppies in particular and kittens need?
Yeah, so we'll start with puppies. So puppies, we always give what you may have heard of as a distemper parvo vaccine. This vaccine actually covers 5 very common infectious diseases. And so sometimes we call it the distemper vaccine or distemper parvo or DAPP vaccine. But your veterinarian can help you. This is going to be the one that prevents against parvovirus and distemper virus and a couple of other respiratory viruses. That's going to be the core vaccine that every puppy needs to have. When your puppy is 12 weeks old, then your veterinarian will be giving a rabies vaccine. That's the vaccine that's required by law. And then the other vaccines may depend on your pet's lifestyle. If your pet's going to be going to the dog park or boarding, then we definitely want to consider giving your pet a Bordetella vaccine and or a canine influenza vaccine. These are vaccines that are going to prevent kennel cough and canine flu. So those serious respiratory diseases that we can see develop. Now in kittens, we give what we call an FVRCP, or you don't have to remember that. Sometimes it's called HCP, lots of little letters there, but essentially it prevents the core infectious diseases in cats as well. And then in cats, again, when they're 12 weeks old, a rabies vaccine is going to be important. Your veterinarian is going to make sure you stay on the right schedule. But typically, we start vaccinating around 8 weeks of age, and we give those vaccines every 3 to 4 weeks until they've had 3 or 4 sets of vaccines. It depends on your pet's age. But again, your veterinarian will help you with that. They'll help you decide not only the core vaccines, but then what lifestyle vaccines your pet may require based on the lifestyle that you guys are going to live together.
And then Eddie from Facebook asks, what do we actually need if we do want to adopt a puppy?
Yes, if you want to adopt a puppy, you got to get those basics for your home. Make sure you have a crate, a food, water bowl. Make sure you have a collar and a leash and some puppy pads because you're going to be doing some puppy training. Toys are important too, because another thing that we consider when we're talking about puppies is what they're going to be chewing on. So we want to make sure that you give adequate toys to your puppy so they can chew on the right things and they won't chew up your $100 pair of shoes or your couch, or those sorts of things. So make sure you have all those basics. One thing about puppy chewing is that, we always say, if you don't want your puppy to chew on something, then don't give them access to it. Make sure that you are tidy around the house. You put the trash can where it needs to be. You keep the lid on it, and don't give your puppies access to the things that you don't want them to chew on. Give them access to the things that you do want them to chew on, like plenty of toys.
And then we did have another question, not necessarily for puppies, but Mr. Michael asks, if they have a 5-year-old English Bulldog who's been fully vaccinated, do they still need to continue vaccinations? Is that just a puppy thing, or just is their whole life?
That's a great question. So if you have an adult dog and maybe they've gotten vaccinations every year and you're thinking, do I need to have vaccinations every year? I would talk to your veterinarian, because sometimes you can go to every 2 or 3 year vaccinations depending on your pet's lifestyle. It is possible that your veterinarian can test your dog's titers. Titers test the amount of antibody inside your pet to see if they have a protective level of antibody. If they have a protective level of antibody, meaning they already have the microorganisms that are going to fight off disease. If they already have a protective level of antibody, your veterinarian might say, maybe you don't need to have vaccines this year and you can skip this year, but it definitely is something that you should talk to your veterinarian about. You should, the same thing with rabies vaccine. Typically we give the rabies vaccine every year, but it's possible to give the rabies vaccine every 3 years, depending on the type of rabies vaccine and your veterinarian's recommendations. So yes, you could skip a year, but talk to your veterinarian and see if they feel like it's a good thing for your pet.
And then, of course, if somebody wants to gift a puppy, just touch on, the main important things, why we shouldn't necessarily do that, or what we can do instead.
Yes, gifting pets seems like a great idea on the surface, but we want to make sure that the person who's going to be the primary caretaker of the pet has had some investment in that pet and in choosing that pet. When I chose my pet, my current dog, you want to have a bond. You want to have that bond. And sometimes that bond happens when you first meet each other. And so you want to make sure that the pet that you are purchasing for your family member or friend is going to be the right fit. And sometimes it works really well. And sometimes maybe those relationships don't create quite that special bond. So it's always best to have the person choose their own pet. What you can do is say, let's go down to the Houston SPCA. Let's take a look at the puppies and or kittens there, and I will pay for your pet adoption. I'll sponsor your pet adoption. That's a great way that you can gift a pet without choosing the pet for your friend or family member. Well, I know we've talked about a lot today, and it's the holiday season. We're so excited to have you with us and to consider bringing a new pet into your home. So please look how cute they are. They're just so cute. So please continue coming on down to our adoption center. I'll whisper so I don't wake them up. Please continue coming on down to our adoption center. If you can't make it to the adoption center, we are going to be at Neiman Marcus in the Galleria every day from today all the way to December 23rd. We are going to have puppy and kitten and dog adoptions at Neiman Marcus in the Galleria. So come on down and take a look at the pets here or at Neiman Marcus. And we're always happy to have you as part of our extended family. So please go to HoustonSPCA.org and consider ways that you can be part of our family in the way of fostering or volunteering or donating, and help us to continue to do all the work that we do every day to save lives and the animals in our community. Thank you again for joining us. Hope you guys have a happy holidays, and we will see you next week on the Pet Pawcast. Bye.